Hey, welcome into the Irish NFL show. Week 15 Monday Night Football. First off, can everybody hear me okay, yeah?
Yes.
Excellent.
I don't know if the audience can hear you, Michael. I can hear you.
Well, if you can hear me, that's all that matters, Brian. How are we doing, boys? Waiting the Mark to come in.
Waiting on Mark, but yeah, good. Ended up being a really interesting kind of suite of games, even the train wrecks, and there were a few of those. So we'll have plenty to discuss on tonight's show.
Good day, Brian, yeah?
Yeah, 8 blowouts, which we kind of expected because of the nature of some of the games that were being played yesterday. And then it looked for a long time in the later slate of games at 9 o'clock that they were going to be blowouts. But it was kind of strange in a way. There was comebacks, but nobody from who came back got over the line. Yeah, they managed to just, the teams who were winning by large margins just got over the line in some games.
Well, I want to publicly apologise to you, Brian, because I know the full Monty's on tonight, but we have to go live at 9. So
I didn't know it was on. What channel is it on?
It must be on Virgin Media. It's on UTV up here. I'm joking. Like I thought it would be humorous to start the show off, but
Great film, Michael. Great film.
Yeah, it's not a movie, but I don't know what that is, but it's all good. Irish NFL show presented by Trust Gaming, presented by Matchbook Betting Exchange. Again, thanks to our fantastic sponsors. Hi, Luke. Hi, Owen. Owen saying in the kitchen. Yeah, I'm in the kitchen. It's nice and cozy down here. I'm close to the kettle tonight.
People are coming into your home now, Michael.
They are indeed, and I've got obviously beside the oven if needs be. But a very enjoyable NFL Sunday.
Is Luke the guy that took the bin man gloves, Colin? Is he?
Bin man gloves.
You like that one today?
Has it been that long since you've seen a wide receiver catch a ball at the Giants?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, only fullbacks are catching balls now.
Well, week 15, and we can all sit here today and say collectively, boys, we have as many touchdowns as Kenny Golladay has at the Giants. So we're doing okay in some way. But before we start, I've got one thing to show you. I've got a video from all the Irish Steeler fans after I picked them on Thursday night.
No, Mikey, that was so not right.
It was so not right, Mikey. Yes, obviously, congratulations to Max. I know. Brian's a big Formula One fan. Max Verstappen, boys, his dad is from Belfast.
No idea what that was.
His dad's from Belfast. He's called Hank.
Genuinely have no idea what that was.
Hanks Verstappen. Anyway, let's get into it. But are we going to start off with the Bucks and the Bills? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go for
it. If we say Tom Brady's name 3 times, Mark will appear like Candyman.
Rub the genie and say Tom Brady's name 3 times.
Well, I like. There's like where do we even start with Tom Brady? Before we start with Tom Brady, I just want to say that we have no affiliation with Formula One or F1 whatsoever, and any video that was shown there is not of our creed, and it's my fault, so please don't take us up for copyright. Thank you very much. Okay, Bucks Bills. Bucks win it in overtime against the Bills. Bucks column mad first half. Bills really shut a lot. Like I was watching halftime going, here, same old Buffalo, same rubbish. Hold on, there you go, Candyman.
Amazing.
Because he fixes it with love.
He must have been watching waiting, and then he said, right, I'll pop in now.
I just the way it happened, boys. Just the way it happened. What did I miss?
You missed the Max Verstappen joke, Mark. His dad's from Belfast, and he's called Hank.
No. I've heard it, Michael. It's a bad joke. Just don't get it.
I know it is.
He showed a video, Mark, of some guy ranting, and I had no idea what he was talking
about. No, the video was very good, in fairness, and it could definitely be used on many occasions. And I've no doubt that that will get further use in the future.
It was an interesting NFL Sunday, and Mark, I know we'll get your opinion on numerous factors, even though your team was in a bye in a minute. Buffalo had scored 24 points in the first half, up 24-3 at halftime. Ended up game going to overtime. Great second half for neutral. I really enjoyed it. But Colin, what were your takeaways from this game? Were you impressed by Buffalo's fight back? I mean, for me, it was JoJo too little too late before Mark brings it in.
Well, what I would say is I think it's appropriate that you use that Formula One clip, Michael, because basically the Formula One officials made it up as they went along yesterday. And we saw very similar on the pass interference. It gets called for the Bucks. And for some reason, apparently, you can drag all over Stefan Diggs's jersey in front of the official as he's looking at it. And apparently, that is not pass interference. Don't get me wrong, Mike Evans used all his experience in the world to get that call. I don't have an issue with that. That was naivety on the Bills cornerback in allowing him to do that, not looking back. But to not call it on Diggs, shambolic. Now, I don't think that there is this giant conspiracy. I just think it's the case, much like in the Premier League or in any other sport, the biggest names get the decisions. It's as simple as that. It's terrible, but the fact that can happen and happens repeatedly, and there were so many instances yesterday where stuff gets called as roughing the passer, and then you see the exact same play happen 10 plays later, and there's no flag. The league should sort it out, but given ratings the way they are, they're not going to sort it out. I actually was impressed by Buffalo, and even though they lost, I thought it was a much, much better performance than we have seen from them over recent weeks. And what impressed me about it was the fact that Josh Allen was able to put the team on his back, and that's what he did, and that's what you want to see. You want to see leadership, and you want to see your QB do that. When nothing else was going right, he was able to turn it around, and that to me was real leadership. They have work to do, and obviously they got to play the Patriots again, but given their run-in, they should still make the playoffs. And the worry, I suppose, is his injury. I think the talk today was he'll be day to day, so hopefully it's nothing too serious. The other thing, Mark mentioned it the other night, and we have talked about it in recent weeks because he has already made an appearance, but Leonard Fournette has become such a weapon already. Season high 113 yards yesterday, and he made a huge difference to the Bucs.
Yeah, Colin suggesting that they'll make the playoffs, and in all likelihood, as you said, bear in mind the games have coming up, they probably will, but will Josh Allen be there, or will he be there with half a leg? Because the way they're going with him at the moment, they're going to get him killed. I mean, 18 plays yesterday where he ran, and okay, great, 109 yards, fantastic. We'd all love a quarterback to be doing that, but ultimately it's again down to what we discussed on the show at the weekend. They have no run game. They need to get that sorted at some stage. Yeah, it was a great comeback. I also felt once it was a great comeback, the Bucs in the second half, people were saying, oh, well, the Bills kind of got sorted at halftime. I thought Brady looked a little bit off in the second half. For a player that was so dominant in the first half, he was, that run in particular, I thought was really good because he just looks, he just doesn't look 45, does he? And the second half, he just went back to what we saw kind of in New Orleans. He just looked a bit erratic. Throws were off, didn't seem to get it together at all. And it's one for the Bills. Yeah, look, the decision, we don't need to go on with the decision at the end because Colin's pretty much clear, said everything that needs to be said. We said it on our group last night, it was valid. We felt it was pass interference. They didn't get called. Mark's obviously not agreeing. He's departed. But yeah, it's a big win for the Bucs because it looked like all the momentum at that stage of the game was with the Bills. They got over the line in the end.
I've got about 35 seconds before Mark comes back in. Great Wi-Fi, Marcus. Some lovely comments. Owen Farrell said that the officials have been yanked all year. Thank you, Owen, for that. I agree with you in some cases. That was definitely an interesting game yesterday. I think the Bills should have went for it, and they should have went to win the game on 2 points at the end. I don't have the official stats for Tom Brady in the second half, but you're spot on, Brett. Like the Bucs yesterday, in the second half looked like if they played like that every week, I don't know what's going to happen. But obviously the Bills would fight, but Brady just didn't seem to be on it in the second half. But look, obviously he turns it on, and I'll say this now before Mark says it. I think I put it in the comments saying Bucs look beat here, and then Brady throws it and wins it within about 30 seconds. But obviously, Mark, your Wi-Fi is almost as good as the Bills at the minute. it works sometimes and then it doesn't the rest of the time. But do you think the Bills should have went for it at the end instead of taking it as overtime?
No, I think they had the momentum. They should have just they did make the right call to go for overtime, to be honest with you. The Bucks looked dead. You did say it, Mike, and it was very funny on the group chat there. It was like the curse has struck. The Bucks looked dead, like and all of a sudden the Perryman touchdown goes in. It was beautiful timing. But I mean, just to dwell on this, like you on Saturday were very angsty about the Bills and the direction they were going and kind of calling into question a little bit about Sean McDermott. We think we defended Sean McDermott well, but for the first half, to quote another JoJo song, if Bills fans have been saying leave, get out right now, you wouldn't have necessarily blamed them for the game they called. Like the first time ever, I think, in NFL history or Bills history that they'd had a first half with no plays by running back, no rushes by running back at all. It was all Josh Allen. There wasn't even anything designed. It was clear intention. And when you're down as badly as you are at halftime, it's clear that your coaching has failed you in that regard. An amazing comeback. You guys have alluded to it. Brady was badly off form in the second half. I think I called it to Brian on our chat about 2 minutes in or 3 minutes into the second half. And you're suddenly going, geez, there's a lot of time in this game. But it was a funny game because it epitomized the number of things we saw yesterday. Blowouts galore. And there were so many comebacks that were almost there. Like you were kind of looking at it with 7 minutes to go and going, Jesus, this is a 2-score game. This is a 3-score game. And the other side almost got back there, but not quite. Look, Bills have to be happy how they finished the game. Very disappointed how they started the game. And the Bucks live on. And 700, guys, if you didn't get that stat, just 700 touchdowns Tom Brady threw for. Just throw it out there.
No more to say on that one.
Did he throw 700 last night, or did something happen?
The last touchdown was the 700th pass.
He's like 100 years old. If me and you were to play until we're... I'm only joking. I'm taking the hand. Sure, you could care less. He doesn't play for the Patriots anymore. I'm only joking. That was really harsh. I'm just in a... I'm in a funny mood tonight. I'm almost at Christmas, and I'm not at Christmas. I'm nervous this week, and you all know why. I just need to try and get to Friday. And that was fantastic for Tom Brady, hitting the 700 club yesterday. And congrats to the Bucks on a win. And what you said there about the Bills, yeah, look, they can't get over the hump. Yeah, great last night, doesn't matter. Like, that's like being 5-0 down against Man City and scoring 4 goals. Oh, but sure, we scored 4. No, nobody cares. You don't get any points. Let's see if they can go to Foxborough and win. I don't think they will at the minute, but time will tell. Let's look at the second game here. We're going to look at the Browns getting the win over the Ravens. Numerous factors in this game. Colin, Lamar Jackson going off injured. Fantastic. I was playing on the fantasy. Thank God. Third highest rated QB PFF this week. Baker Mayfield, 80.2. And he didn't even play the whole game. What's your thoughts on that Browns victory? I think none of us picked the Browns, no?
No. I'm surprised by Baker's rating. I didn't think he had a good game. I really didn't. And I'm like, I liked Baker Mayfield up until really this season. And I don't dislike him. I just don't think he's been good. And I didn't think he was at all good yesterday. I mean, they jumped into an early lead, a 17-point lead, but it was the defense that got them over the hump. Garrett was just, he's a freak. He's brilliant. He's absolutely fantastic. He has 15 sacks. He's broken the franchise record. He is like, his record is not good because of the 17 games. It's because he is so ridiculously good. And then Clowney came up. Huntley just had no awareness of where Clowney was, and that just ended it there and then. But so the Browns, and we talked about it, their defense can be fantastic. We said that on Saturday's show, and they can show up in big moments, which is exactly what you want. And, there's a reason Myles Garrett wore that Grim Reaper costume at Halloween, because he can wreak havoc. But definitely their offense still has struggles. I didn't think they ran the ball particularly well. But the Ravens have real issues now, and injuries are really beginning to take their toll. I heard Sam Monson discuss on the PFF podcast earlier today around the injury that that Jackson picked up. And not that it was necessarily a dirty tackle, but it's just interesting in an era where QBs get all the protection in the world, right? If you put a hand on them after a play, that, is roughing the passer. But if you go low at a guy, after the play is done, there was no flag on that. That's where the officiating is. Just, it makes no sense what exactly they're trying to do. Are they really trying to protect quarterbacks? What way are they going about it? The Browns are still alive, given the division. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Lamar. I see that Harbaugh has said that he expects him to play next Sunday. They need him to play next Sunday. They need to jumpstart that desperately.
Is there any word on that? Out of interest,
Harbaugh said that he expects Jackson to play, but he's going to say that, I guess.
Yeah, it's just my fault. They're playing against the Packers. He's going to go with that story all week. It looks like it's a high ankle sprain. There's no way he's going to be playing next weekend. I'd be stunned. But we'll see. Where's going to go with this one? Baker Mayfield. Statsman must be looking at paper and not looking at the game. That interception that he threw was dreadful. Some of the passes he had in the game are dreadful. Right, he threw for 192 touchdowns, but they couldn't even run the ball yesterday. Like Chubb and Hunt only combined for a total of 61 yards in the game. The Ravens, for all their flaws, down 24-3 going into the fourth, and they rallied with a backup quarterback because they've got a great coach and they'll battle till the very end. They nearly pulled it off, despite a poor performance. The Browns should be putting that game away, but when you have Baker Mayfield as your quarterback, you won't be putting many games away. It's a good win for them. I'm still not convinced the Browns will make the playoffs. The Ravens, if they don't get Jackson back, Huntley will struggle inevitably in the end. And was the top of the division at the moment, I'm not sure they'll be there come the end of week 18. Sorry.
It's a funny one in so many ways. I mean, we're talking about Baker and we're talking about the Cleveland Browns offense. And it's like, well, they won. So, but they didn't score a single point in the second half. The only reason the Ravens had the opportunity to come back is because the Browns let them hang around. And that's what Baker does. That's what happened in so many of the near comebacks. We talked about the Bucs-Bills game already. I'm sure we'll get onto the other games that were similarly poised. I won't give any spoilers out. Where if one team doesn't put it away, you're always leaving it around the edges for a team to potentially come back. I mean, Garrett scored 7 of the points. So you're talking really about 17 points from that offense in the entire game. It wasn't an amazing output. Did the Browns need to win? Absolutely. Was it a sea change from the last game they played where they were handed their asses by the Baltimore Ravens? Of course it was. Did they deserve the win? Yesterday? Yeah, they absolutely did. But I just love the intrigue of what we're now setting up. We talked about the Bills a minute ago. We're talking about the Browns now. There are 5 teams in the AFC, all on 7 and 6, effectively fighting over 2 wildcard spots because the Chargers are a game ahead. So you kind of count them out a little bit, but they're still in the mix. In the NFC, you've got 5 teams on 6 and 7, effectively fighting for one space. I think it is going to be. I was looking at it before because the Rams are already probably secure, and who else? Well, maybe it's 2 they're fighting for in that regard. Oh no, the 49ers are a game ahead of everyone else. So the intrigue on all of these games. There's another big one for the Bengals and the Broncos next week. We're going to have all these 7 and 6, 6 and 7 teams fighting away, and we'll talk about the 49ers Bengals shortly. I mean, that's the fine margins that occur, and the Browns can throw that game away. They just about held on, and they are still technically alive. But for me, the Ravens' schedule is the thing now to focus on because they're not a million miles away. They're not guaranteed winning that division. And look at what they've got. Packers, Rams, Bengals, Steelers. And the Steelers, obviously, they already lost to. They're their last 4 games of the season. It doesn't get really that much tougher than that. There is every possibility they could go 1-3 or even 0-4. And they could, when I talk about all those teams at 7 and 6 hanging around, potentially miss the playoffs altogether. They needed that game. That was probably their easiest game left in the season. So Harbaugh needs to bring the troops together, get around yet another bunch of injuries they're suffering with, and try to pull out another couple of wins to have their season continue into January.
I enjoyed the game personally as a neutral. talking about the Browns the second half. I mean, the Bucks have 3 points, but both quarterbacks got it over the line, even though they were poor in the second half yesterday. Javion Clowney yesterday had 3 tackles, 1.5 sacks, 2 quarterback hits. But for me, and we haven't really talked about him that much, Tyler Huntley, when he came into that game, 270 yards, 1 touchdown, 45 rush yards. I mean, he almost got them over the line at one point. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against Green Bay on Sunday, if he plays. The combination between Landry and Hooper got the Browns over the line in a game that they won. They just about won. I would struggle to see how the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson is out and going by the strength of schedule, I would struggle to see how the Ravens are going to maybe perform in that division, but time will tell. I mean, the Bengals boys are like, 1 week you're in, 1 week you're out. Like, they're like a bookie's dream. Nobody knows what's going on. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. It's one of those things.
Michael, I would say Harbaugh's a fantastic coach, which means that no matter who's there or thereabouts, somehow they'll kind of make it work. But Tom Brady threw a touchdown pass for the Bucs to win. Baker Mayfield relied entirely on his defense in that second half to get him to win. So
I think that game. Ben, when the 4 games left now, I think if they were to get 1 of 3 going into the Steelers game, I think 2-2 will get them in. At least at a wild card, and they might be fortunate that they are playing the Steelers, because the Steelers season, I know the Steelers will obviously want to derail their season because they're a rival and winning the division, but you would like to think that, especially that game in a home in week 18, keep saying week 17, sorry guys, week 18, that they would have enough to get over the line in that game.
You can almost make an argument, Brian, does anyone want to win the AFC North? Or they all just trying to have a perfectly equilibrium season together? But it's certainly... There's still some twists and turns in that division, for sure.
You may get a permutation come week 18 where potentially 3 teams could win the division.
100%.
Plays out. Yeah.
I think it'll 100%. Be that case. I don't trust the Steelers either after last week. Teams that are 7-6, I think 9 will get them over the line for a wild card. Personally, Bengals 7-6. Well, they're 7-6 now against the 49ers, who are now 7-6, winning 26-23 in overtime. Bengals get a field goal in overtime, and then Jimmy G turns it on. Jimmy G, column 296 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. George Kittle 151 today, 1 touchdown. This 49ers team are really coming into their own, or is it just me?
Well, they had, up until last week, they had a speed bump. I mean, that's the thing, the league this year. The team comes into form, team hits speed bump. This is the 49ers team who should be there or thereabouts. They had, they've spent a lot of money, a lot of experience there. We expected big things of them before the season began. So it's not enormously surprising to see them sit at 7-6 now after a poor start. Kittle is back, and Kittle played a fantastic game yesterday. I mean, he was Jimmy G's get out of jail free card essentially, and Jimmy G, we saw the good and the bad. Jimmy G made throws. Jimmy G held the ball for too long at other times and took some terrible sacks. With the 49ers, I saw a great tweet earlier that said Debo is running the ball so well he's going to have to take a pay cut. Which I thought was a very good one. For the Bengals, you'd say to come back so well in the fourth quarter, and just for it to fizzle out. I mean, Jamar Chase was good. He found a couple of really good double moves to get open. Joe Burrow was good, but the defense, you feel, is their weakness. They have an absolutely huge game against the Broncos next weekend, which is really kind of going to be the season definer for both of those teams, you feel. And what's interesting is the fact that, both teams 7-6 record, but the 49ers are 2.5 games back, whereas the Bengals with 7-6 sit, atop. They're are tied for second. So it's really the difference in the conferences this year is somewhat stark, but come playoff time, we'll see whether any of that really matters.
We touched on it earlier in the season, and in particular in our pre-season show around whether this Bengals offensive line could stand up and help Burrow, and where we're going to see a scenario like last season where he got injured. But he's running for his life at times yesterday, and obviously one of them in particular was the touchdown throw to Chase. But in fairness to Chase, I think he helped him out because he double turned in the end zone, twice to get open. Joe Mixon, 58 yards yesterday. We've seen the last few weeks. I know Mixon scored last week, and he got better as the game went on. Then he had that fumble, but the Chargers held him in check, and the 49ers, for the majority of the game yesterday, held him up, and it seems to be a big difference if he's not playing. It doesn't free up Burrow, in terms of fake handoffs and all the rest, and he was struggling. He was running around yesterday, but at the same time, he still had a great game, and they came back again, which shows the fight that they've got under Zach Taylor this year. But I agree, the 49ers, we touched on them at the start of the season. We felt they were certainly a team in consideration for the playoffs and intends to making a push again, because last year was written off through so many injuries, and a lot of those players came back, and like Deebo Samuel's been the X factor this season. He's great, and Kittle has really come into his own. It's a big win, and even in overtime when the Bengals scored, I noticed the rule is like the touchdown and a field goal doesn't win it, but like 9 times out of 10, even a field goal, then the defense tends to stop them. So for them to go down and score a winning touchdown, it was a great one. Get over the hump of last week's defeat against the Seahawks.
I think Colum's been a bit almost nice to say Joe Burrow was good. Joe Burrow, for 3/4 of the game, with the issues with the offensive line and the run game, was pretty average. However, in the fourth quarter, he was magnificent. There was a throw that Tom Brady made, coming back to Tom Brady, to Mike Evans, which was an unbelievable arm strength throw from a 45-year-old man. But Joe Burrow, 44, Joe Burrow proved in that fourth quarter why he is the actual future. The 2 drives he led, especially the 32-yard chase, the balls were inch perfect. It was an immaculate display of a throw. Look, we knew he was for real before this, but he is seriously for real. And Colin calls out the record 7-6 and 7-6 and the difference it means in division. Equally, it's kind of bizarre. For the 49ers, it means they're the 6th seed, and they've got a game's head start over the 5 teams on 6 and 7, as I alluded to. The Bengals are 9th seed. So, you can have the same record, but the beauty of the different conferences. Look, a couple other quick call-outs. Bosa yesterday. I mentioned about he was being reunited with his old college teammate, and he would try to meet him on the field. Jesus, it's like the Burrow owed him some lunch money or something, because he harassed and harried him and sacked him a couple of times. It was an immaculate display in pass rushing. Equally, George Kittle, the ladder he climbed up for the catch just before the end of regulation was magnificent. Robbie Gould not kicking that let down George Kittle more than anything, because that catch was something superb. And I will say, the final play, it wasn't Jimmy G. It was Brendan Ayuk. When you're talking about, an effort play from your second, third receiver, not really your main threat in relation to it. Fantastic white tightrope walking to clinch the deal and seal it. So, that's what you want to see. That's the commitment you want to see. Really, really, really good, entertaining game. Great comeback. Nearly got there. Great to see a bit of overtime. And great to see both teams scoring in overtime as well. We'll get the ball, we'll go down. Okay, we only got a field goal, but up to you now. And the 49ers rose to the challenge.
When I got drafted, the 49ers fans were all very excited about him. And at the start of his career, he looked really, really good. And you thought he's the type of player that will, set the world alight. And then he kind of got a few injuries. And then obviously with Deebo Samuel stepping up, he's kind of gone into the background. So it was good to see him yesterday being the one who got the match winner.
Yeah, but who's the number one receiver for the 49ers? It's George Kittle. It's not even Deebo.
Yeah.
Well, if you're playing the Irish NFL show drinking game, Mark did mention Tom Brady had a contact, so you can down your drink now. That catch, though, from Kittle, was that in overtime? It was, Jesus.
Yeah,
last play before regulation.
No, there was one towards the end. He jumped up like a horse. Then I agree with what you're saying, Mark, on the fourth quarter. Joe Burrow was a man unto himself. That drive that resulted in the touchdown from Jamar Chase, I think it was a 4th down play, and everyone in the crowd was turning against him, and he just turned it on. This is what annoys me at the Bengals, because they've got the talent. Like yesterday, they couldn't get it going on the run. They only had collected 70 yards between Joe Mixon and the other guy, can't pronounce it, Pernine or something like that. But the real interest in me from now isn't just yesterday, because it's a game that they lost in overtime They could have won the game, but playing the Broncos, playing the Ravens, playing the Chiefs, playing the Browns to end that season. I mean, they should be trying to get 9 wins there. They should be, and they should be looking at, for example, playing the Chiefs at home. They should be trying to get something out of that game. They should, because if that's their aspirations, they should be, like, if that's the game at home, they should be trying to do it. The Jungle should try and do it. But they're impressive, but they're disappointing because I want them to get over the line. They got such good talent on the offense. Tyler Boyd had a good game yesterday as well. But it wasn't to be. 49ers creeping up. And as you said, boys, number 6 seed.
Well, they've lost 2 in a row now, and they're going to Mile High this week. It's in Denver this weekend, isn't it? I mean, who would have thought, a few weeks ago, these two, both teams would be 7-6. It looked like both seasons were going in different directions, and here they are now playing against each other. And, an AFC game where one of them is going to walk away 8-6. It's going to be a huge game for both teams.
Or 7-6-1. Let's not jinx it already. I'm joking. Yeah, it should be an interesting game. Let's go on to the main topic of the day, boys. Brian, how about them Cowboys? Colin, how about Dak Prescott? Mark, how about Micah Parsons? How about the audacity to take their own seats to Washington? Dallas nearly shite the bed, boys, yesterday, but they still win. That defense, Colin, woof. Woof. Should have said woof for the Browns.
The defense was phenomenal. We'll get to that. I criticized the Cowboys on Saturday night. I criticized Mike McCarthy for guaranteeing a win. I still think that was a very silly thing to do. But in fairness, in terms of bringing in their own benches, initially I saw that yesterday. I was like, what is this? This is another. And then you read about why they did that. And we all know, or maybe viewers don't, but check out the sewage shower that some fans had to experience because Dan Snyder is such a cheapskate, and the league continued to cover for him. The reason they brought their own benches in was because they talked to the Seahawks, who said that the Washington football team deliberately left the heated benches without power when they played there a few weeks ago. So players were freezing on the sidelines. So wasn't going to allow that to happen. And this game was all about the Cowboys defense, essentially, and it was all about Micah Parsons. He is sensational. I mean, he is 2.5 sacks off of the rookie record, which was Javon Curse for the Titans back in '99, who had such a good season that he was called the Freak. And here's Micah Parsons, who's not even supposed to be an edge rusher, and he has 12 sacks already. And not even just that, it's not like he's played edge rusher for the entirety of the season. He's just been fantastic. He really does have to be in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year. TJ Watt will be up there. Myles Garrett will be up there. JC Jackson potentially even up there, Mark. But you would have to say Micah Parsons deserves to be in that conversation. There's still plenty of football to be played, so let's see. But with Parsons playing as well as he is throughout the season, with Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence now back, if that trio stay healthy, I mean, they can absolutely blow up a game. And can the Cowboys find their mojo on offense? That's what's going to decide how far they go in the playoffs. But nobody is going to like facing that Dallas defense, particularly the pass rush they can bring at you.
Yeah, that was what I was going to more so focus on, the lack of offense to a certain extent. They only moved the ball, throughout the game, but they were settling on field goals. And Dak was sacked 4 times and he threw 2 interceptions. That one in the fourth quarter was really poor. It allowed them to come back, which in a game which was 24-0 at halftime, 27-8 at the end of the third quarter. That game should have been put away early, but they just couldn't seem to move the ball. Elliott looks injured. Pollard not playing looked a huge loss because he's such an explosive player. He kind of carrying on where he left off towards the back end of last season. And to be honest, I think he's kind of stepping up to be the number 1 ahead of Elliott. Elliott just doesn't seem to be the player that he was. And they started off well. They were moving the ball and then it just seemed to go away. And as Collins alluded, that Cowboys defense, essentially won that game for them yesterday. Washington rallied because we touched on it with Harbour. They've got a good coach and they'll always fight to the end, in particular a divisional game, but Cowboys had more than enough in that game.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys are alluding to it. Like, what did they get in the second half? 3 points. I mean, Dak Prescott played just as badly as Tom Brady did in the Bucs game in relation to the second half performance. So that wasn't exactly the performance the Cowboys fans wanted to see. But the line was exactly what they wanted to see. We alluded to on Saturday, Neville Gallimore coming back into the side for his season debut. What did he do? He got a sack. At a critical juncture. DeMarcus Lawrence got a sack. Randy Gregory closed out the game with the strip fumble, the strip sack on Allen. And of course, the wonderful, great Micah Parsons, who I fully agree with, Colin, deserves absolutely to be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. I think Garrett will get it, to be honest, but Parsons definitely deserves to be up there. Some other things to just call out. I mean, the Cole Holcomb interception. Yes, Dak Prescott cannot make that mistake and that critical a juncture in the game. That was almost sacrilegious in what he did. And yes, Washington, it's hard coming out of a 24-zip hole at halftime. But one of the plays that nearly got them there, which even got acknowledged by the Cowboys, Sims catch, the 40-odd yarder, where he just managed to go over the top of Trayvon Diggs and get it down. When they confirmed it on replay, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Trayvon Diggs went over to Sims, dabbed him up as if to say, yeah, that was a hell of a play, man. And, you like to
nice
see
little fist pump there,
fist pump. Dabbing him up.
We
Is that
have,
what it did say? Guys.
I don't know. I'd ask them tomorrow. Irish Cowboys saying, looking forward to Cowboys Giants on Sunday, Brian, even as bad as that was. I agree with what you were saying, Brian. I think they really missed Pollard. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott was under 50 yards yesterday. There wasn't much feeding time at the zoo yesterday. He must have been eating the whole way up to like Jesus wept.
He's saving it for next Sunday. He'll be fine.
He'll be gone next Sunday. But like, sure, at the end of the day, the Cowboys go 9-4. That defense, I'm saying it here on the 13th of December. That defense is starting to remind me of a certain defense. I'll talk about that maybe before the Giants game. They look.
But hang on a second. This defense has been hosed over the last month as well. Like, let's not be.
I know, but they were.
That wasn't the 85 Bears defense here, guys.
Top banana yesterday. I mean, I'm talking about that. Dak Prescott wasn't great yesterday. He wasn't great yesterday, and that fourth quarter was atrocious. Like, I don't know what happened there on the offensive side of the ball, but I found as well in the second half, like, not getting guys like Dalton Schultz involved as well. I don't know what McCarthy was at, but they get over the line. And now we all have to talk about the Chiefs and the fact that how many points did I stopped watching? Was it 48-50 or?
I think it was 48, Michael. The Raiders decided to play this new game where they take the exact defense that gave up 41 points a couple of weeks ago and say, do you know what? Let's try that again. Exactly the same. Let's not change anything. And lo and behold, what happens?
Well, let's look into it now. So basically, lads, like, Chiefs done really well yesterday, 48-8. I want to say 8. 48-9 against the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's start in the Raiders very quickly, Colin. Hunter Renfrow was the leader there. He's 117 yards, 1 touchdown, 9 yards average. Patrick Mahomes, 48 points, 2 passing touchdowns, 258 yards. They relied mostly on the rushing game, as you would expect. Edwards-Helaire and Gore. Some nice plays by the Chiefs. Their biggest win in a long time, Colin, and a much needed win to take them to 9-4 and have a bit of a gap in the AFC West, albeit the Chargers and the Broncos, 7-6, have to play all these teams over the next few weeks.
Well, much needed. They're on some run, Michael. They have held their last 3 teams.
Much needed offensive performance. Yeah.
They've last 3 teams they've played to 9 points. 9 points that the last 3 teams have put on that defense. And Patrick Mahomes, 20 of 24. They've put 89 points on the Raiders this year. And look, to me, it was, look, there's no other way. It was a circus for the Raiders yesterday. It was a circus. And where we hear a lot about Derek Carr, and there are people in Broncos media who tell you, oh, Derek Carr, great, get Derek Carr in next year, he'll sort it out. Where was Derek Carr's leadership yesterday when that team went onto the logo? And this isn't a rookie QB. This guy's been around the league forever, and he allows that. I mean, as soon as that happened, everyone, Twitter exploded going, they're going to get annihilated. And, they did. I mean, they got beaten up. It was embarrassing. There's no other way to put it. It's not even a game. A game requires two teams. The Raiders weren't in that yesterday. That was just a shambles. And to top it all off, I like to take you back to when they did win at Arrowhead and they did a victory lap in the bus. So the Chiefs played the wheels on the bus go round and round as the Raiders left the field yesterday. Why would you allow extra motivation? In the same way that I criticize McCarthy for guaranteeing a win, it makes no sense to me that you would go and do that. Like, players are fired up enough already. We talk about the parity in the league. What the Raiders were thinking and why nobody in the franchise said, don't do that. Lads, leave well enough alone. We're already at Arrowhead. We're already going against this defense. That made no sense to me. The Raiders never learn. We talked about it at a show on Saturday. We talked about the way in which you slow down this Kansas City offense is you play the two high shell. You make Mahomes take the underneath stuff. They didn't do that. They went and they did the exact same thing that they did in the first game, and they got an even bigger beating.
The reason why it happened, Colin, might suggest is because they don't have a head coach at the moment. They have an interim coach who has, it looks like he has very sway in what's going on there. When I saw it on social yesterday, I knew the game was over. But it was over after the first play because they fumbled on the first play of the game, which was returned for a touchdown. You're right about Carr. I mean, to be like you said last week, and not necessarily for this game, but when he's expected to put up, a dominant performance, he doesn't show up. And he was picked off 5 times yesterday by that Chiefs defense, which is only getting better and better. Mahomes threw 2 touchdowns for the first time in a month, so he did look. Whilst the Raiders were deplorable yesterday, I did feel that Mahomes looked like he was getting back to himself. Not at the level we're used to seeing, but it looked like it was the kind of game that will only help him in the long run as the season progresses. But yeah, the Raiders are to shambles at the moment. It's not going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, Nina Cherry and Usain Dor had a famous song called 7 Seconds. And, whilst that's enough time for San Marino to score a goal against England, the Chiefs actually needed a whole 17 seconds to get that first play fumble return for a touchdown. And that was it. The game ended up being over from there. They never looked like they turned up. They never looked like they arrived. Brian just alluded to 5 total turnovers by the Raiders offense. It was abysmal. And to be fair, the Chiefs offense didn't have to do too much with that type of an all-encompassing and all-suffocating defensive performance. But they did look like they were getting back in sync a little bit more. And winning breeds, success breeds success. Like, winning breeds more winning. They're now on a 5-game win streak, or is it 6-game win streak? They're building up momentum nicely, and that's what you're looking for at this time of the season. Our team's getting better as the season goes on. Are they getting better after Thanksgiving? And the Chiefs, I mean, they couldn't have got much worse the way they started the season, but you'd have to say the case is undoubtedly yes. And let's be clear, it's not just getting space in the division. That number 1 seed in the AFC is very much within their target.
Sorry, just one point. It's not necessarily related to the game. When I saw the Raiders situation yesterday with, dancing on the crest or whatever you want to call it, it reminded me of last year when Juju Schuster, on his own, in fairness, was dancing on the Bengals crest. And the night in which we did that show, the Bengals hadn't beat the Steelers in 11 games. And what happens? Extra motivation, the Bengals win the game. When nobody expected it at the time. These type of things, just don't do it. Just, go in, play your game. If you win, you walk out with the win. And you don't need to be doing those type of that kind of carry on.
I will say, like, it's definitely helped the Chiefs that the Raiders have just refused to acknowledge the way in which you slow them down. So there might well still be questions, and we'll have to see how they do over the last 4 games. It will be interesting to see how Staley approaches that game. You imagine that he will, given that he came through the Vic Fangio system, that he will go kind of with the too high. The worry for the Chargers is that the stop at the run, but for the Chiefs, I suppose the run in will be interesting to see what they can do, and particularly I suppose coming to Mile High in that last game, because that first overall could be in play for them at that point. But I just, again, like, it is just a shambles that the blueprint is there. You tried going against it in the first game, which was just a few weeks ago. It didn't work, and you thought, I know, let's do the exact same thing, but let's do it away from home, and let's give them extra motivation.
Yeah, and this is a Raiders team that beat the Cowboys in Thanksgiving in Dallas, and quite frankly, everyone was watching it. I certainly remember that night, boys. This wasn't that long ago. The point I meant there now was it was their highest scoring performance in 2 months, and it's coming at the right time. And Mark's spot on what he's saying. They're coming into the right form. If they play like that over the next 4 weeks, they'll be the outright leader in the AFC without a bother. But you would have to wonder, will the Chargers column obviously play better than the Raiders on Thursday? I'd like to think that, as a neutral, taking hats off, you'd like to think they would, but that's what they need. I mean, like you're talking, I don't think any receiver for the Chiefs in a 48-point victory yesterday got anywhere over 75, 76 yards. I think that shows you the manner of the result. They were fantastic on the run, fair play to them, and they worked effectively, and they got what they needed to do, and they won the game, and the game was over, as Brian said, after the first 15 seconds. So congratulations to the Chiefs. Chiefs-Chargers Thursday night. We've got a really good Thursday night football game coming up as well. As well, with a few guests. I think 9 o'clock or so on Thursday. And Mark, I know you have a point to make.
Well, it's just, I mean, I don't want to preface the TNF club too much, but like at the same token, that is a massive Thursday night game. Because if the Chargers win, they've got the tiebreaker locked and loaded against the Chiefs because they've already won their first matchup. So they will vault from the wildcard spots to the top of the AFC West into a home field advantage slot for the playoffs. So you don't want to be playing the Chiefs on a 6-game winning streak to be granted. But the Chargers, as inconsistent and maddening they've been the last few weeks, they are still in a prime position to take control of that division if they get the right result. You know, you've got to beat the teams when it really counts. They've got to beat the Chiefs on that game. So it's a big, big game because the Chiefs could still tumble into the wild cards. And
just one final point. When, and I'll do it for Mark because I'll talk about the Patriots. When the Patriots played the Bucs earlier this year, and there was the whole big Tom Brady build-up, what did Bill Belichick spend the week doing? Did he spend the week trying to antagonize Tom Brady? No, he spent it going out of his way to be nice to Brady. When Ronaldo came back to play United with Real Madrid, Fergie went out of his way to be nice. You do not look to antagonize the opposition before the game has started. Yeah, absolutely. You want to do it while the game is on, fine, but do not give extra ammunition. Just a shambles. And is it Davis? Like, why do the Raiders keep doing this year after year? Does it come from the very top? Will things ever change for them?
Well, I certainly think he's not running the organization the way his late father would want, anyway. Okay, I think we've done enough on this game.
Well, we haven't. I have got one final thing to say. You were talking about dancing on the crest. We've got a bit of breaking news from us, and we're really excited to announce. Just obviously, this show has went from strength to strength, and over the last year, and it's just great to have this finally happen. I didn't think it was going to go on for so long. Brian, you're like, I don't know, I just was sitting there. I couldn't be bothered listening to the Chiefs for 5 minutes, so I done that instead. Dancing with the Stars, Brian, yeah? You going to be off the show during the playoffs then, yeah? Or what's the crack?
Oh, yeah, I'm joining it, yeah. I'd probably more chance of being on it than watching it. Let's put it like that.
Well, it starts week 19, so it starts off the
is that the UK one or the Republic of Ireland?
The Irish one.
Is there? Oh, there is an Irish one.
Yeah, it's the Irish one, Brian. Sure, nobody's a celebrity on that anyway, so you're feeling well.
Yeah, so I have a chance. Yeah.
Hold on. Now. I've actually been scarring the celebrities going on it, going, do they follow any NFL accounts? Can we get them on for the crack? Ronan Keaton's daughter is on it. She does not follow any NFL accounts. We'll come back to that in a bit. The next game we're going to talk about is the Titans against the Jaguars. Now, this is going to turn into a whole conversation. Let's just focus on the game because there's no point in us sitting talking to Urban. Urban couldn't understand me. Let's see the crack here. Titans, I haven't got the score on me, right, Colin? The Titans, they didn't score that many points. 20?
No, the Titans didn't play particularly well, but they at least looked like they wanted to be on the field. That's a big help. I mean, to me, this game essentially, look, I've talked enough about the Texans and the shambles that the franchise is, but at least the team is playing for Cully. And for all of the issues with the Lions, the team is playing for Dan Campbell. This team is not playing for Urban Meyer. So some individuals apart, they had no interest in being there yesterday. Urban had no interest in being there yesterday. The handshake with Vrabel, who he worked with, and then the comments afterwards are not that addressing any of the issues that came out in the story or saying none of that is true. He goes at the person who leaked and says that they will be fired. So just, if the Raiders have enormous issues, I called the Jags an unmitigated disaster last night, and I believe that is the case. I know that you rarely, if any time, get a bounce. You very, very rarely get a bounce in the NFL or from getting rid of a head coach. But I just don't see the point. I think they will absolutely regret not taking the opportunity to fire him for gross misconduct when they did, because it's going to cost Khan millions, because he's going to have to get rid of him because he has absolutely lost that dressing room.
He can always go to the AEW, Brian, if he doesn't get it.
How this game ended up in our list instead of being in any other business section is news to me. There was nothing in this game. Look, the Urban Meyer situation. We were in London, right, and we saw Trevor Lawrence win that game. And I know he won on a field goal, but we saw as that game progressed how good he looked as a quarterback. And leading into the draft last year, when we did all the draft analysis on the live show, we were raving about him, and he's going to be a generational quarterback. But right now, he doesn't look like anything like that. And I know it's his first year in the league, but there is other quarterbacks, the guy down in Foxbury, having a really efficient season. And you wonder which one is the 15th pick as opposed to which one is the first pick. The sooner he's gone, as in the coach, the better for Lawrence, because hopefully we'll see a new head coach come in and start to kind of show him the love he needs as a quarterback in his first year in the league, and obviously moving into a second year. We see the talent that we all deserve to be watching every Sunday, because right now we're seeing nothing. He had four interceptions yesterday, and it doesn't look like the head coach is doing anything to help the guy.
Urban Meyer wants to dominate boys and let them live in fear. He can't lead men. It's as simple as that. The ridiculousness of, hey, there's no story here. I don't know what they're talking about. They're all lying. But if I catch those sources, I'm going to fire them. Kind of is a bit of a mixed message there, Urban. It kind of suggests that, well, something was said. Otherwise, why would there be sources? And we've had Tom Pelissaro on the show, really great journalist. He also hasn't said a source. Everything has been sources, plural. And that's telling in itself. He's not just hearing this from one person. He's hearing this from multiple people in relation to it. The other one that the Pat McAfee show highlighted this morning as well was a great one. Meyer was asked about, Cisco, and we're asking again, why isn't he not increasing his snaps? And he said, "Oh, look, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, he's getting more snaps. He's getting more snaps. He played in 0 snaps yesterday. He doesn't even know who's playing for his team." But I mean, look, we could talk and moan all about them all the way through. We could move on, if you like, to another great franchising game between the Falcons and the Panthers. Again, what else do we want to say about these games? We said even beforehand, this isn't the most appetizing game of all time, but at least, Michael, there was a little bit of WWE reflected.
What? There's were these exciting games? No. Were they good quality games? No. But are there intriguing storylines? I mean, essentially, this game, right? We had talked to Benjamin Albright in the off season about kind of tongue in cheek saying, "Oh, imagine if Bill Belichick was to use Cam Newton and Mac Jones in a 2 QB system." Ha 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 ha. Matt Rule went and did it yesterday. And has said he's going to continue with it, but Sam Darnold might come back. So are we going to see a 3 QB system? Is that what they're planning on doing? And that's why you got to talk about this, because Rule appears to be just not knowing what is going on. The OC is gone, so he can't blame him anymore. So he tries a QB that in Cam Newton, brings him back in. Every game Cam has actually started, they've lost. They're also paying Cam $4.5 million guaranteed. They're paying Sam Darnold $4.5 million guaranteed this year, picked up a 5th-year option, and they're paying Teddy Bridgewater a fortune to play for the Broncos. That's why this game has to go on, because this is, they were going against a Falcons team who I like a lot of what the Falcons do on offense. The Falcons have a lot of work you feel to do on defense. But yesterday, this Falcons defense was fantastic. I mean, Newton, and again, Matt Rule got rid of the OC allegedly because he wanted to run the ball more. Newton was the top rusher yesterday, 47 yards against a Falcons side. I mean, this is the point where you get to this point of the year and you really begin to see, again, even if teams are losing, like the Lions, right? The Lions had a bad loss to the Broncos, but you can see Campbell is making progress. You can see what he's at least trying to do. He's suffering desperately because just the roster isn't good enough, and they had so many players out. But there seems to be some sort of plan there. Matt Rule is just throw it against the wall, see if it sticks, and talk about, I called it QB hokey cokey because it was in, out, and shake it all about yesterday.
There's no need to panic on Matt Rule. He's on a 7-year contract, so happy days for him. If he finds his way out the door like the offensive coordinator did, he'd be well looked after and remunerated. But no, he won't be going anywhere. But look, it's clear and evident they have a quarterback situation that they need to resolve in the offseason. I'm not sure how they're going to, because they've tied into Sam Darnold on the 5th-year option as well. And I'd argue that Sam Darnold probably would be more efficient in playing for a quarterback at the moment, because Cam has clearly fallen off the cliff, in my opinion. He's not the guy of old. And if he's not running the ball, he's not doing very much else. And yeah, PJ Walker, who was formerly in the XFL, disaster. It probably suited him as well, because bringing a quarterback in and out, they couldn't function in terms of getting, anything going properly, and played into the Falcons. And Matt Ryan is for all the stick Matt Ryan got over recently in terms of poor performances in the Patriots game, he's rebounded reasonably well, and I felt the Falcons would find a way to win, and they did.
Well, look, I mean, Cam should talk to Jerry Jones, because Jerry insists upon bringing the bench. Maybe Cam should bring the bench to away games, because he's going to spend an awful lot of time on the bench the way he's going. But I'll tell you someone who doesn't have to bring the bench necessarily because he seems to own this team. Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers, 45-30 over the Chicago Bears. I must admit, guys, I watched the first quarter and I had to go to bed, and I was like, 3-0 to the Bears. All right, they're still going to lose, but fair enough. If you'd even stayed up till 6 minutes into the 6 minutes left in the second quarter, you go, geez, the Bears are 10-0 up. This is, could be a tight game. Within the last 6 minutes of the second quarter, 38 points was scored, 27-21. It was at halftime. It was one of the most bizarre games going. It really never felt like the Packers were at risk, to be truly honest. And of course, in the second half, the Bears' offense resolved into normality again. But two things, if you're a Packers fan, which I know, yet again, they're on course for another 13-4, 14-3 type season. Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, great combined act. Their thoughts are already on January and what can occur, what might go wrong, what could let them down. I tell you, watching that game, their offensive line, they are literally on their last thread in terms of healthy people. Elton Jenkins on IR. Yes, Bakhtiari might come back, but that's no guarantee yet. One more injury, and it could send them into the wrong death spiral. And my dear God, special teams. That was an appalling display last night. That was probably the worst special teams play we've seen from any of the 32 teams in an American football game this season.
I think you should give the floor to Colin. And this Colin is he likes to scrutinise special teams in Denver, so it might be the right time.
Well, I also think the Bengals might want to enter the conversation at this point because their special teams last night. But I can point to all sorts of stuff for Tom McMahon's special teams units. For me, in terms of AOB. Sorry, Brian, but it's Justin Herbert. He just every week he comes up. Yesterday, the camera guy is like, "Oh, I've lost track of the ball. I think it's going. This is where most QBs. Oh, actually, no, it's in the end zone." He's just phenomenal. He's brilliant. He's brilliant to watch. We are very fortunate that he's in the league and we get to watch him week in, week out, because even as a divisional rival, you cannot but admire him, the way in which he reads the game, dissects defenses. But that throw yesterday was just brilliant.
I love Stink. Sorry, Michael.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I love Stink. He played in the offensive line because he was doing the commentary in the game, and he says, "Of course, he's going to throw a ball like that when two offensive line guys are being rolled over by Chargers guys and no flags being. Sorry, their offensive line guys were should have been done for holding." But anyway.
Sorry, I was just going to say the Chicago Bears last night reminded me of a team going to Old Trafford in an FA Cup third round. They're playing for their lives. Delighted though because I could watch it this morning, and fast forward through every down. I fast forwarded through the whole fourth quarter. Thank you, Chicago. They put a decent enough effort up the first half, but don't ever do that there. Don't ever do that there against our. I mean, you literally started them off at that point, like in that point. My AOB is going to be the Broncos beating the Lions. Obviously, the whole thing centered around the game was with DT, Demarius Thomas. I have to say, you boys made some great comments, great analysis on his life and career the other night. Fair play to all he is. It was really good to watch back. And it was emotional to watch yesterday. I think the final drive was 88 yards. But good with the Broncos going 7-6. And who knows what's going to happen. I can't call the season anymore. I'm just glad I got 9 picks right this week. And I'm going to collectively now stay quiet until I probably make the wrong pick for tonight.
I don't really have anything particular on AOB. I was going to have a bit of a rant about the Giants, but I think at this stage, just they can listen to me. Joe Judge coming out with absolute nonsense, after the game again. And progress. I don't know what progress he's watching because no one else can seem to see it. And as Colin touched on today, it's the type of stuff you used to hear from Vance Joseph. And whilst Dan Campbell is saying we're making progress, you could argue he is with, a lesser panel of players than this Giants team are supposed to have. But anyway, not long now till
you watch the game live though. Like, I mean, from what you seen with Justin Herbert, how impressed were you for him? Like he looked unbelievable yesterday.
I think the Giants defense played reasonably well early on against them. They held them up and they made him punt a couple of times early. But the killer was the second quarter because the Giants got the ball at their 45, couldn't do anything with it, and then the following drive with 17 seconds to go in the half, you're allowing a touchdown. Whatever about how poor the Giants are. Any team in the league that's given up a touchdown with 17 seconds to go in that manner, once it was a great throw. I mean, you know at that stage that inevitably they're going to have a go down the field because they were already in field goal range, give or take. So, but yeah, look, we all know he's a great player. It's the Chargers team. They're up and down. Eckler got look like a pretty bad injury now. They're saying he's day to day. I think the fact that the game is on Thursday against Chiefs could probably lead to him not playing in the game. And that'll be a huge loss for them because a lot of it goes through him and allows Herbert to do what he does because teams double up on Eckler at times.
Yeah, and just to wrap up, guys, on the AOB, I'm contractually obliged to mention that the Saints and the Jets had a football game yesterday, which the Saints behind 120 yards for Kamara and some nice run in the very end by Taysom Hill that helped some of these fantasy teams. comfortably walked. I don't think it came as a surprise. I think they were a full house. But the one that I did want to mention, Michael, and you alluded to the Broncos game, is to me it's always interesting when there's a good acknowledgement of somebody's life as a sportsman. I remember the late Anthony Foley passing in rugby, and obviously Ireland lined up for that famous win in Chicago against the All Blacks, lined up in number 8, and New Zealand Maori presented a jersey and before they provide the hack when they played at Thomond Park. And yesterday, when the Broncos started the game by lining up intentionally with 10 men, with Sutton, I think, on the sideline, and then Dan Campbell, former player himself, obviously in the Lions, having the class to decline the penalty. It was just a lovely start. And then you see Justin Simmons with amazing inception, goes straight over to the 88 decal and puts it down. I mean, I thought they were lovely touches, especially at the start of the game. So,
yeah,
I think it was a good way to acknowledge him.
Yeah, no, look, kudos to Dan Campbell and the Lions for that. I think that's the sort of stuff that sets, that's the reason players buy into Dan Campbell and get it, because he understands them and he understands the game. And that was a really, really nice touch. I think it was Patrick Smythe who sold the idea to Vic Fangio. And it was a really nice way to start it.
Vic doing well on his challenges and timeouts as well. For a different talk for a different day. Nice commentary on Axel. I think it's 5 years now. It's hard to believe. Time for picks. See? No? Okay, hold on. Let me get this whole thing ready. I have it all here. You're just trying to set things up, boys, and people probably listening are going, what's going on?
Christmas. Big game tonight. This is going to go a long way.
Very festive.
Yeah. Mark wants to jump on board at the no, look, it is a big game. It's good. There's a lot of teams watching this tonight. Very interested to see how it goes, because it'll decide who gets the number 1 pick. It could go a long way between the Cardinals and the Packers, and potentially the Bucs as well.
Just before we do this, just very quickly, Matchbook, £15, €15 welcome offer. Irish NFL Show is the code. Mark, you have to run. Do you want to do your pick first?
I thought you'd never ask, Michael. Unfortunately, I do have to jump, and God knows this is a tough game to pick. The Rams have not been on a great run. No, the Rams have not been on a great run the last while, but they're still an extremely talented team. They still obviously have the capability of beating anyone on their day. And if anyone can chase down Kyler Murray, isn't it just great to watch Aaron Donald and maybe Bill Von Miller, if he's settling in better, to be chasing him around the field? Look, the Cards have the best record in the NFL, and I don't think it's by much, and I don't think it's going to be a very hard-fought game. But my bet is on them to continue to extend that NFL best record, go to 11-2, effectively shore up their division, and keep their priority for the number 1 seed. Because remember, if they lose, they go to the 2nd seed, because Green Bay have the tiebreaker. So it is incumbent on them to keep the pedal to the metal for the final 4 weeks of the season, 5 weeks of the season, 5 games of the season for them. So that's my pick. I'm otherwise going to love yous and leave yous. So Marion Boker Latza, and I'll see you on the TNF Club in a couple of days, boys.
Mark, just very quickly, people can contact you for agency work with Brian on Dance with the Stars, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm his agent. I'll be handling all media queries and all requests for sponsorship and promotion.
Sure, so. He's been doing that for years already. He's well used to that.
See you on Thursday night, Mark. Keep her lit. Sloan, Guilfoyle. All right, Mark picking the card. He picked the Cardinals, didn't he? Yeah.
He did,
I'm not making that graphic again. Thank God. Colin, who have you got?
I agree with Mark that I think this will be an interesting game, but unfortunately, a couple of hours ago, it got less interesting because Jalen Ramsey and Tyler Higbee both went on the COVID list. And losing Ramsey in this sort of game is a huge loss. I mean, Ramsey is one of the outstanding cornerbacks in the game, and Higbee has been an important part of the offense. So I really want to see what the Cards can do. And in fairness, I was talking about Vance Joseph to Brian today and his head coaching role, but as a defensive coordinator, he has done an outstanding job for this Cards team. I want to see how he's going to do against McVay's offense, especially with Stafford there. So that should, even without say Higby, it still should be a good battle. But I am going to go with the Cards to win this one, given what the Rams are now missing. Although it has been a night of guys going on the COVID list. Everybody seems to have almost at least one or two guys going on the COVID list today.
Last Monday during our show, when we were reviewing last weekend's games, we felt that once the Rams won, they didn't really do anything in particular, and they didn't really have to because they were playing a poor Jags side, which we've already discussed tonight. But they still didn't seem to be back to the kind of the offense in which we saw earlier in the season. And I know people were saying Odell Beckham caught a touchdown, but the run game wasn't great. There was defensively they were fine, but it just something doesn't sit right with this team at the moment. They just don't seem to be the team which everybody expected to make a strong run towards the Super Bowl and at least make the championship game. Was this Cards team last week against the Bears, coming off the bye week with Kyler Murray back. I know they're struggling against the struggling Bears team, but they certainly looked the team that we saw throughout the season. With Murray back, and he looked 100% last week. He ran in 2 touchdowns. For me, I think they'll have too much firepower on offense. And I think the Rams will run them a lot closer than people may think. Even despite those injuries, I could say it'll be a high scoring game. But in the end, I think the Cards will have too much.
Nice one. Mark is going with the Cardinals as well. Mark Hogan is at the game, so maybe he'll bring them luck if he was at the Bears game last week. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to the other games, but this is a really good game. Hopefully, Mark, you enjoy it. I think this game is going to be tight. I know, Colin, we talked about Jalen Ramsey. You've talked about different issues of COVID. Not just the NFL at the minute. The Premier League is done, boys, with COVID at the minute. We're sort of lucky the All-Ireland is not at the minute. Jesus, because they're falling like flies at the minute. It's hard to predict, but for me, I think the Rams they're too hard. I can't see how Van Jefferson is going to go in tonight and score 2 or 3 touchdowns. But if you look at Arizona, their structure's better. Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins there as well. I think personally, I would take Cardinals -2.5, -3.5. But in terms of the game itself tonight, I'm going to take the under. I think both offenses will cancel each other out. I think both defenses will cancel each other out to the point where Kyler Murray will run a bit. But that's not the main story tonight. And we all know on this call right now, that's not the main story. The big story tonight is Brian O'Leary needs Matthew Stafford to score 3 or 4 touchdowns, or else he's out of the fantasy league for the year. And I don't know if he knows that live yet, but hopefully Matthew Stafford personally doesn't have a good game, because I'm out if that's the case. So
no, I don't think it's going to matter anyway, even if he does throw 3 or 4 touchdowns, because my opponent, who I can't recall his name, has oh no, it's Emmett. It's actually our friends from Trust, our point of contact in Trust. He's who I'm playing. He has Zach Ertz. So I think my season is 1 and done. Let's put it that. But when you looked for your friends to sort you out and help you out, Colin decided to rest a majority of his players this weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, like, Brian, I feel the same as you, because we potentially both could have got in for the crack. Colin thought, do you know what? No, be grand.
I think you're in if you win.
Me or
if you win?
I'm in. No. I'm in if I win and you lose. It's points.
I'm gone.
I'm glad that I get to decide the NFL's bye schedule. That's fantastic. I still, despite the fact that I had my 3 running backs on buys this week, I still got 140 points. Noel had a worldie and got 170.
But next season,
what's going to happen though, Brian?
Next season, I'm employing a general manager for the draft, and it's going to be Colin. I'm bringing him in for the draft. I'm going to pay him for the draft, and someone else will have to manage his team for that particular draft. But unless we see
the commissioner of the league, and
unless we see some kind of Minneapolis miracle or a complete downing of the tills on the Cardinals side, I think it's safe to say I won't be at the playoffs come next week.
We said, do you remember a couple of years ago, and I regret it to this day, that Chiefs game on Monday Night Football? We woke up the next morning and went, oh, Jesus, Marion Joseph. So you never know what could happen here. Is Peyton and Eli on tonight, boys? Do you know?
I don't know if the Manning cast is on. Mike, I had the really good fortune of being stateside and got to watch that game at a reasonable hour live, which was fantastic. I also just see Tom Pelissero has tweeted that 25 players have tested positive for COVID today. Rayshon Slater being amongst them, which will have a big impact on the Chargers potentially.
With Eckler also potentially, that's could be 2 big losses.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the NFL won't cancel any games. They will make their players play. Like, for example, if they have no quarterbacks, they'll make the next best person play. And I'm sure that'll happen for a team this year.
Quarterbacks probably shouldn't have put the trackers in the corner of the room and denied it then.
Okay.
Anyway, in fairness, I criticized Derek Carr for a lack of leadership. There was an absolute lack of leadership in that Broncos QB room last year.
And finally, I'm going to finish in the Broncos because it's a point that affects the whole league, and it's funny as well. Apparently, Teddy Bridgewater wants $25 million next season.
Yeah. And I want to be on Dancing with the Stars, man.
There's more chance.
It's not going to happen.
Well, here, go and buy the standard of celebrity on that show. You could be on it, but I tell you. We're back Thursday night.
You're my agent, and he's my general manager. I'm sorted. And Mark looks after my salary, so everything's good. Good night, guys.
GM. We've got Thursday Night Football show on as well. We've got a special show on Friday, building up to the 2 games on the Saturday and Saturday night. And I don't know what time we're going out for Sunday yet. We'll discuss it off camera now. See you all. Enjoy Monday Night Football. And we're sorry in advance to every Cardinals fan around the world.